What's up, everybody? Welcome to Primarch Purpose, a series in which I give you my thoughts on what I think the potential endgame goals and purpose might have been for the Primarchs by the Emperor in creating them in the Primarch Project. We never get to see it actually come to fruition because the Horus heresy happens, Primarchs go traitor, Primarchs die, and things get kind of blurred in terms of potential purpose. So, with that said, this is a what if style setting set up for just such an occasion. I go over it in a bit more detail in the intro overview ramble, but basically what we're looking at here is the Great Crusade comes to a successful conclusion. The imperial truth is the law of the land. The emperor is alive and well, leading this imperial truth driven imperium. The Primarchs are all loyal to the emperor with their legions in tow, although they may have some bickering amongst each other, sibling rivalry type stuff. And then from that, we have to understand, because it's imperial truth driven, because we have this setup that we do, some things are a bit different. There's no ecclesiarchy, and their associated forces, they're gone, or at least not part of the imperium. There is no Inquisition as we know it. I call it an Inquisition for those Primarchs where it's appropriate to bring it up, but the standard Inquisition as we know it with the different Ordos and with the Death Watch and the Grey Knights don't exist either. There's still plenty of strife, plenty of war to be had in the galaxy. The Imperium has stronger borders and a stronger, larger influence, but there's still Xenos threats. There's still warp, incursion, and chaos, taint, and corruption that way. There's still humanity to be a threat as well. Breakaway factions, things that just don't want to exist in this Imperial truth or can't accept it or don't want to be a part of it. So we still have plenty of strife there. So with that said, looking at the legions in reverse legion order for their Primarchs, we're checking out the 16th Legion's Primarch, the title Primarch for the heresy, checking out Horus Lupercal himself, the big bad, if you will. So, Horus. In looking at Horus, we have to understand a couple of things. Firstly, he is the first Primarch discovered. He is on the planet Chthoniya, however you pronounce it, which is really close to the Sol system. Close enough, in fact, that you could make the argument the Emperor knew there was a Primarch there and thus directed the Great Crusade to go that route initially, because it's really early in the Great Crusade's time period that the Emperor is reunited with Horus. And because of this early discovery, Horus kind of grows up alongside the Emperor for a time. He is not purely grown on his homeworld. In fact, he's taken from there, and you kind of have this father-son relationship truly happen between the Emperor and Horus. In fact, this is the closest we are going to get to such a thing happening, because, as we know, the Primarchs were whisked away by chaos to be scattered like they are. So if they weren't, this would be kind of the closest thing we would see right here. So Horus grows alongside the Emperor. They develop a friendship, a father-son kind of relationship truly happens between these two, as opposed to other Primarchs. And Horus learns a great deal. His exploits are seen directly by the Emperor. All this leads to kind of honing Horus to be War Master. It just kind of works out that way because he's the first Primarch found. So, to look at the purpose of a Primarch, we have to look at his Legion as well. But we can't, in this instance, look at the Black Legion. This is kind of an interesting situation because the Black Legion was restructured, or the Sons of Horus restructured to be the Black Legion by Abaddon. And Abaddon basically breaks any kind of ties with Horus and the Legion because he views Horus's ties as Horus has failed, and thus ties him as a weakness, and he's trying to rebuild the Legion to be strong and mighty and the best Legion once again. So he severs ties with Horus, and the Black Legion does its own thing, kind of completely re-evolves. So that has nothing to do with Horus. So we're looking at Luna Wolves and the Sons of Horus time. We can even look at the Horus heresy in terms of how Horus does stuff there as well. So we have to understand at certain key battles during the Horus heresy, Horus is powered up by the Chaos Gods, right? All four Chaos Gods swelling him with power, making him stronger than he would be normally, but we can still look at things outside of that. Anyways, for the purposes of this what if, Horus is still leading his Legion, but his Legion is not the Sons of Horus. They're going to stick with their first name, the Luna Wolves. And I put this way because while Horus was granted the right to rename his Legion, he doesn't do so initially. He he basically says, thanks, but I'm not going to do that, Father, if you want to put it that way. The Emperor gives him the right to do so, but he doesn't exercise that right. He keeps him as a Luna Wolf. It's only after his wounding by the Anathame and subsequent beginning of his corruption to chaos from there that he renames his legion the Sons of Horus, and it's kind of used in the fluff as the turning point for Horus. It kind of marks when he starts going traitor, is when he renames his legion, and then shortly thereafter that the Isthman 3 atrocity happens and the heresy breaks out. So we're going to keep it as the Luna Wolves, but regardless of whether or not you're looking at Sons of Horus or Luna Wolves, the tactic of the Primarch for his legion is there to be seen. And Horus is a very capable tactician, leader, commander, fighter. He's got a bit of personality to him, a bit of a charisma, if you will, and a bit of pride, a bit of an ego. He views himself as the best and his legion as the best legion, and it's a good thing to do so. You want to view yourself as the best. You want to have that confidence, as long as it doesn't become cockiness. And it's this confidence plus the very efficient, adaptable chain of command. Meaning, it's a chain of command, so one link goes to the other link down, and down. It doesn't change up there, but like a chain, it can flex and bend around stuff to make things work. So we have a very efficient chain of command in this legion, which leads to that, plus their confidence leads to the capability of truly exercising the spirit tip formation. Now, other legions do something very similar, right? The idea of going for the throat, going for the head, stabbing out the command and breaking command lines in an enemy force is not unique to Horus, but this is kind of his trademark technique. So what basically happens here, this principal tactic, which reflects their overall attitude of being the best and being aggressive, is a very compact, hard-hitting, elite surgical assault aimed at the command structure of the enemy, aimed at the overall commander, the leadership of the enemy force. So this force is a small but very hard-hitting elite force. It goes right for the throat, basically to decapitate the head, while the rest of the legion fights the body, right? The rest of the legion has important work to be done. Of course, take and hold areas. Part of being able to do the spirit tip is making sure, anti-air fire or a certain weapon gets deactivated or whatever the case is. There's plenty spectrums of fighting to happen during the spirit tip, but it's the spirit tip that ultimately is the main goal. So thrust into, puncture into the enemy's toughest area where the best fighters will be, protecting their leader, kill their leader, and have the enemy force crumble and the legion mop it up, basically. This is their tactic time and time again. And what really works for Horus in this case is his capability as being very tactically capable. He has kind of this gift to just know precisely what force to send where at the right time. So Horus does this, and specifically does this to crush the enemies of the Emperor, but sparing the innocent, if you will, sparing collateral damage from happening. Collateral damage is going to happen, right? But his goal is to keep it to a minimum as best as possible. And at least when he was loyal anyway. When he wasn't loyal, that's a different story. But when he was loyal, he wanted to keep unnecessary collateral damage, unnecessary bloodshed from happening for as long as possible, or for as much as possible, I should say. Part of that is the spirit tip, because when you're going straight for enemy's command and battling the enemy elsewhere, but you devote your strength to severing the head, that's a good way to avoid some collateral damage. Some other Primarchs, such as Perturbo and Angron, for example, don't care about collateral damage. In fact, collateral damage seems to be their mantra, if you will, with overwhelming firepower of Perturbo or the bloodshed butchering of Angron. Really don't care about limiting collateral damage there. So it's through his tactical capability, his lack of his wanting to keep collateral damage down, and his confidence in himself and his legion that lead his purpose, I feel, to be very capable in the form of a vanguard commander that doesn't do as much bureaucracy so far as direct command or advisory roles, right? All the Primarchs are very capable of leading and all the Primarchs have an understanding of warfare strategy that encompasses non-legion forces, right? They fought in different expeditionary fleets that had Imperial army forces attached to them, so they know about the capability and what to do with them. But Horus had to make use of them extensively as War Master during the Great Crusade. So Horus knows that, and Horus has a good understanding that only maybe a couple of other Primarchs do as well of other legions' capabilities. So in a multi-legionary campaign force, Horus would be a good go-to leader, or as the Emperor might want him to be, an advisor for another Primarch to kind of have the Primarchs learn this role. So I think Horus' purpose is to be that vanguard commander to go forth and strike, particularly at sensitive locations. Let's say a Forge World comes under attack and it comes under occupation by a Xenos threat, or secedes from the Imperium, whatever the case might be, or a Relic World, or something important where the enemy's digging in or there, and they got to be removed, but they got to keep collateral damage down, and they want it to be an efficient strike, and they don't want protracted warfare. Horus will be called in. I think Horus's capability, his legion's perfection of the spirit tip formation, is just going to be a natural use there, and there's plenty of this capability happening in a galaxy of strife, as there will still be. So I think something like this would be the goal for Horus, to be that vanguard commander, to be able to do that spirit tip formation strike while also commanding ancillary forces to take and hold areas or defend certain points. I think he would be very capable at fighting against Tyranids as well, once they understood the whole hive mind concept and the way that works. I think he'd be very capable at dealing with Tyranids also once they show up. So a very capable commander in the form of dealing with decapitation strikes, while at the same time commanding Imperial auxiliary forces to do their thing, whether it's defend a position, hold a position, support, whatever it is. And in the case of multi-legion campaigns, whereas many legions in one campaign, being the War Master, he would have a natural capability from all that experience to lead the forces that way, particularly if it's multi-sector combat at once, like particularly harrowing campaigns across different sectors of space at the same time, or be an advisor for said commander as well. Now, real quick before I wrap this up, there's a lot of, in talking about this and hearing this, I know I brought up, in my mind anyway, numerous parallels between Horus and Guilliman, and there are, but there's also differences, which is why Guilliman wouldn't be in quite the same active vanguard capacity, and we'll get to that in his own ramble. But I want to bring that up because the Primarchs aren't 100% unique. Nobody overlaps with anybody else. There's a lot of overlap that does happen, but we see the uniqueness in the form of the aggressive vanguard on the front line, in the thick of it, campaigning, that Horus is just a part of it. It just feels natural for Horus to be there, whereas other Primarchs can have that happen too, but they also have, they're more naturally leading elsewhere. Lorgar, as I already talked about, is more of a scholar than an outright war leader. I mean, he's capable. He's a very capable Primarch, but in the realm of Primarchs, he's like the lowest in terms of raw physical aptitude and martial prowess in comparison. But he's still high and above the rest of the Imperium. So, as a result, yeah, he's a very capable combatant, but he's more of a scholarly leader, and there's a difference, right? With Horus, he's more of that war leader, and whenever a massive undertaking campaign happens, he's going to be one of several go-to Primarchs for the Emperor to bestow overall command of a campaign on. He's not the only one, but he's going to be one of them, and being the first son found, having that relationship between the two, is going to naturally have a bit more of a trust thing there for particularly delicate situations that require not only that tactical capability, but that raw physical vanguard war leading as well. Not the only, but one of the more go-to ones. Anyways, that's what I think his role is, his purpose is. I think his purpose is basically the same as it was during the Great Crusade, to be a campaign leader and an overall war commander. Some Primarchs are just meant to be that way, and as fate would have it, the Great Crusade was their calling, and this is kind of the same situation for Horus. Anyways, thanks very much for sticking through it. Share your thoughts on Horus's overall purpose, what you think it might be. Again, I think his purpose just happened to coincide with being War Master, but I don't think his purpose was to be overall military commander of the Imperium. I think that this was the case of a byproduct of the times of the Great Crusade. But it definitely helps in being that a war leader, a type of Primarch. Anyway, I don't think the Imperium is meant to have one overall commander of the military outside of the Emperor, but this is one of several Primarchs that are capable of commanding chunks of forces at a time with ease. Anyways, that's it. Thanks very much for sticking through it, and until the next one, take it easy.